I smoked for about 4 years. I quit about a month ago, and I decided to write down a few things that have been helping me get through it for the past month. Okay, number one, be able to identify your triggers. Triggers are basically routines where you habitually feel like you need to pull out a cigarette. So for me, it used to be whenever I got into my car, whenever I got a coffee. Coffee and a smoke seem to go hand in hand. When I'm at parties or when I'm drinking, that's actually where a lot of people end up starting smoking. They're drinking with their friends and a few of their friends might be out having a smoke. The alcohol clouds your judgment a little bit and you get a little bit curious and more adventurous. You decide to try this out, see what it's all about. And unfortunately, cigarettes are super addictive, so even though you just tried it when you were having a drink just to see what it was like, you ended up becoming a smoker. A lot of people say they like to have a smoke after they eat. When you're stressed or anxious, like someone will say, "Oh, I'm so stressed, I need a cigarette." As soon as they feel stressed, the first need they have is to pull out a cigarette to clear their anxiety. You need to become aware when these triggers come up because you need to be aware to make that decision, because at this point it's very habitual. It's not something you really think of. Like as soon as you follow this routine, like get a coffee, feel stressed or anxious, or for me getting to my car, it was an automatic thing. I didn't think about it, I just automatically pulled it out. But you'll notice that if you decide not to have that smoke, you start to feel a little bit uneasy, you feel a little bit anxious. And that's where you really have to pay attention to make the decision. Like, maybe it might be easier for you when you make the decision not to smoke, but these are habitual, so you have to also pay attention when these triggers happen. Alright, the second one, don't complain, whine, or be grumpy when you're in this process, because you kind of give your own power away. Like, don't be sitting there being grumpy saying how hard it is, it's so hard, because you're just focusing on all of the negative, and eventually you'll just wear yourself out and probably end up smoking again. Also, when you go into these negative behaviors, become grumpy and whiny, then after a while you'll kind of associate the feelings of whininess and grumpiness with not smoking, and you start to like kind of hate your own behavior, because who likes a whiny, complainy, grumpy guy? And after a while you'll get tired of living with yourself, and you'll feel like the remedy is this cigarette, because as soon as you have that cigarette, you start to feel normal again. Look, when you quit smoking, just try your best to keep it together, act normal, stay under control. Don't be controlled by this little white stick and give it a name for all of your problems, because eventually you'll just associate these negative feelings with not smoking and smoking with being normal and being the remedy for your own grumpiness. So just stay under control. Be yourself, prove to yourself that you could handle it, stay under control even though you are undergoing nicotine withdrawal. Of course you'll go through some hard times, it's going to be hard, but just toughen up. Toughen up. Figure out why you want to quit smoking and make this part of your discussion or this part of your thinking very important. Because for me, I want to quit smoking because I don't want to have cancer or heart disease when I grow up. Sort of like what I said about eating better. I want my lungs to feel better. I want to have more energy. I want to detox. That's basically what I want to do most, is just detoxify all the crap that's inside of my body. Humans have developed language so we could understand each other. But we also use language in our own minds to understand our own thoughts. When you are thinking in English if you speak English. You are not thinking in just feelings or gibberish or whatever. But in order to understand our own feelings, we turn those into words. You simply just don't feel a feeling. You start thinking out of these feelings. And what I mean by this is you might be completely rational and say, I'm never going to have a cigarette again. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to let myself do it. But later on, this voice comes in your head that has all these justifications to do it. Like, oh, I'm with my friends, I'll have a smoke. Or even with me, with like working the night shift, I always said, oh, I'm working the night shift, I'm going to have some junk food because I'm working the night shift. Do you notice how those don't align at all? Do you see how that doesn't make sense. How does eating junk food have anything to do with working the late shift? That's how I justify it, and I just be like, oh, that's a good reason. When you're quitting smoking, your mind is so addictive, it will shut out all of those voices of reason unless you have a powerful voice of reason and you're aware of these negative thoughts that just sort of surface. That you don't really notice them, but when these voices surface, where you're trying to justify a reason to smoke, remember your reason and maybe repeat it out loud and remind yourself of the reason that you came up with in the first place every time one of these thoughts comes up. So you kind of have that voice of reason to block all of these silly, stupid justifications that you normally, when you're having a craving for a cigarette, it completely fulfills your mind all of these justification reasons to smoke, because you're so addictive and in your mind you want the cigarette so bad, your mind will just fill up and completely take over. But you have to be strong and take those reasons of why you quit in the first place and combat the negative thoughts. Everyone has different consciousness. Everyone has different types of thoughts in their mind. Every time you make a promise to yourself that you say you're going to keep and then later on don't for some reason because it's like a different part of you took over. You know, everyone kind of goes through this, so I hope I'm not alone with the more than one voice or type of voice. I can't be alone in that. No, it's a thing. It's a thing. I'm not crazy. Be your own parent, or set yourself accountable. Be able to kind of see your own self outside of your own body and be able to be the leader of yourself. Imagine a friend comes to you and asks you to help him be accountable and help him quit smoking. What would you say to that person? When you're completely rational, you could give great advice to someone else. But when you're trying to do something hard yourself, like it's hard to work with yourself because everything's kind of like inside your own mind. You don't have a chance to step out and see things from an outside view, and that's really what helps me a lot, is to kind of just stop, take a second to think, step back, and really think about the big picture and make a decision. Don't just run through your patterns. Don't just run through your life blindly doing what you do every day, getting stuck in a rut, doing the same habits, doing the same bad behaviors. Just take a second and take control. Alright, I think that's all I have to say for this video. Alright, peace.